here. Is that grant that you spoke about for the, is it just to check on addresses? Is that money supposed to cover other?
Also for investigations. There's certain compliance. So you have, for example, through September 30th of this year, there were 1,002 offenders that had registered in the city of Boston. But through the checks that have taken place, they found that 882 of those were in compliance. Again, this isn't through the end of December, this is just through September 30th.
And does in compliance mean that you're living at the address you're registered?
Exactly.
And the out of compliance just means they're not where, they haven't updated their address, or they no longer live there and you're not sure where they are?
Yeah, when they do update their address by law, they're supposed to inform law enforcement of the new address. So if they do not do that, they're in non-compliance. And then they would conduct an investigation as to where that person may be living. Mm-hmm. So some of those funds include the investigation, not just the visiting.
And are you required to tell Boston you moved, or required, like say you moved to Weymouth, are you required to tell the Weymouth police that that's your new address, and then the Weymouth police, like, is it a statewide update for the different cities in town?
I believe when they move to the other location, they're supposed to inform
the new place.
Yeah.
And then, so it might
Yeah.
take a little time to connect, but.
And it could be as well as the Boston police. I'd have to check on that if they have to inform both.
In these police positions, so is this just to cover like overtime, or like what extra money? Because this
So
isn't obviously to cover the salaries of the police.
No.
Right, it's just for the extra
Yep.
support.
So these detectives are already in the sexual assault unit conducting investigations, so this is overtime to make sure that they take the time also to go to these
Right.
addresses and double
Right, so
check.
it's not something they can't get to.
Exactly.
Right. Thank you. Kevin, is this a new grant, or is this the first time we got this grant?
No, so we've had this grant for 20 plus years.
Okay,
It's a formula grant, so we just have to provide a justification for it. The state, and it's a pass through from the state. So the state gets like 1.3 million, and I believe we get approximately 20% of that, or around 280,000.
Okay, and is that because Boston needs it more? Like,
No, so we get less than they do. They get more money than we do.
Oh, all right, I was gonna say, yeah.
And the reason, it's just based on UCR crime, Part 1 crime, I think.
okay.
So.
And has it always been named Backlog Reduction Program? So
Yes.
is there always historically been a backlog issue?
Yep. So, and it's
Okay.
across the nation. It's not just
Right.
unique to it. Like every state gets a minimum of, I think, 600,000, and then depending on what your UCR numbers you report to the FBI, then it's all formulas. They just
Okay.
assign each state however much money the formula spits out.
Thank you. And Sergeant Bailey, I mean, yours is a small grant. Does that cover all the maintenance you need to make sure? And I know I'm glad I'm not in your position when the cold weather comes. I saw you when you were all in Charlestown, right, the other night. It's a tough job in the winter.
I agree, yes. Good afternoon.
Just 1 second.
Bailey scratches his...
Sergeant, just give me just 1 second. Oh, there you go.
Pardon me. You hear me now?
Yeah.
Excuse me. It barely scratches the surface. This particular grant through Port Security, it comes through the captain of the port. Port Security, as well as our UASI grants, our urban area security initiatives, are vital to maintaining operational readiness. Unfortunately, in what I try to tell people who want in a maritime environment, everything breaks, and it breaks often, and none of it is cheap. So we do count on these grants through the feds quite a bit, whether it's to augment existing equipment, to buy new vessels, which we are currently under the UASI program. We are going to acquire a new vessel. Hopefully it'll come online by 2026 with Sail Boston. And to today's matter, this particular item is a collar, which is vital to the fendering and flotation of our primary response vessel, the 38-foot safe boat, which we acquired to my predecessor, Sergeant Joe Cheevers. That is like the newest vessel right now, and it's important to maintain its flotation.
How many
and operational
vessels do you
effectiveness.
have right now?
At present, we operate 8 vessels, 58-foot twin diesel, and 7 outboards ranging 38-foot down to 25-foot.
And is the South Boston waterfront at the marine, is that the only place they're all docked, or are they spread out in other places?
That is our only location at 9 Terminal Street.
Okay. And one quick question. I know I was on one of the vessels in the summer, and I was speaking to EMS. Is there always EMS working alongside when you go out, or is that only staffed during summer times? I would assume
That's
maybe
correct.
Just summer?
During our high season,
High season is-
come Memorial Day to Columbus Day.
If you-
They're working on that, actually. They want to propose a full-time
A full-time, I
medic
would
with
think.
our unit.
Because almost all calls that you're called out on, they're still going to need probably medical support if they're,
Most cases,
and
yes.
especially if cold water. Yeah, okay, well,
Yes.
I will advocate for that in the EMS budget. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chair.